I think what's going to be really interesting is who is able to move their processes, which are developed for humans, into processes which are developed for AI. Because humans are able to understand nuance in a way that an AI currently isn't. So it does require you to adjust your processes. I think that's going to be a really interesting development. I would say it's probably 90% of healthcare issues and frustrations are from incentive misalignment. But I'm sure if you asked an insurance person, they would say, hey, we're doing the best we can.
Aakash, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for anyone who doesn't know you, who are you? What are you doing in this world? Give me the 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Aakash. I'm the founder and CEO of Wyndly, where we're fixing allergies permanently. And we do it by figuring out exactly what you're allergic to and then having our doctors make a personalized treatment plan that's going to use those allergy triggers and fix your immune system, right? So it's a lot like you can build a tolerance to caffeine. You can actually desensitize your body to your allergies too. So we've been doing this for a few years. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm just gonna actually just dive right in. I personally think I have had allergies for most of my life. I don't know if a lot of people are that way, but I think I have had. I've looked up allergy tests. It's not necessarily cost prohibitive, but like most things in the U.S. medical world, it's like now I have to Google a bunch and then call a bunch of people, and then I won't be able to get appointments. And so anyway, first question is, does it work, and does it work better versus the traditional way?
It's not really a comparison because we are the traditional way, right? So I developed this because I myself had horrible allergies. I kind of ignored them. And then eventually, when I just stopped being able to breathe and started feeling like I was dying all the time, I decided that's bad for you. So then I went and I tried to go to an allergist, and it was incredibly difficult. There's incredibly long wait times because there's just not enough allergists. I think there's only 3,000 practicing allergists for the 100 million people with horrible allergies just here in the United States. So just getting in to see one was impossible. And then when you get in to see them, they like to administer their medicine by giving you a weekly injection for 5 years, right? And so that's just not a relationship that I could have with my doctor. Like coming in every week for 5 years just didn't fit my lifestyle. So it was incredibly inconvenient. What ended up happening is I was complaining to my family about this, and my cousin is actually a doctor that also specializes in allergies. And he says, actually, there's something we can do that's really not talked about because it's just not economically incentivized, right? Insurance isn't going to drown you in dollars for doing it. Insurance isn't going to drown the provider in dollars for doing it, which makes it very difficult for providers to do because, they have to run a business. They have to keep a roof over their heads. Very few people go into medicine because they want to get very rich. Anyway, so basically what he did, he said, in my practice, we have an at-home allergy test kit, which is what we use now. And this is actually the test kit they were using on children because children don't respond to skin prick allergy testing. They start crying. Who would have thought? And then he said, well, since you can't come and get an allergy shot every week, I'm just going to mail you the stuff and the mix. And then you need to just put it underneath your tongue every single day. There's actually FDA approved versions of this. So this is, this is something that you could get. It's just not often prescribed. I was like, okay, let's try it out. So I got this, put it underneath my tongue. Within a few weeks, I could actually start breathing. My allergies were going away. Within a few months, they were effectively gone for good. And then what we learned is if you stay on the treatment for 3 years, you like the clinical studies show that you're going to have 30 years of allergy relief. So I want 30 years of allergy relief. So that's kind of how we got here. So when I say it's basically what you would get in a doctor's office, that's exactly what we've done. It's the same treatment, the same medicine, the same testing that you could get in a doctor's office.
I guess I didn't realize that allergy solutions, I mean, this is me completely ignorant about the space, but didn't realize that you could resolve it. I thought it was something that you constantly had to kind of mitigate the symptoms rather than actually fix the problem. But you're saying with an
that's what big antihistamine wants you to think, right? Like big antihistamine wants you to be on a drug every day for the rest of your life. That's incredible recurring revenue. Like, oh, it's sunny outside. There's flowers blooming. better take my Claritin, Benadryl, and Zyrtec just so I can go about my day. No, no, you don't have to do that. I think there's two factors really playing into it. One, you do have to go to a doctor like ourselves to get this treatment. And so generally most Americans don't like to engage with the healthcare system.
A
And
big
two,
barrier of entry to kind of seek the solution.
yeah, exactly. And then two, when you've heard for your entire life that antihistamines are what you take for allergies, that's just what you think you're supposed to do. Like so many people that we see don't even know that there is a better option. They think that all they needed to do was just suffer with Benadryl, suffer the side effects like, you know, drowsiness, weight gain, all of that jazz, just so that they could get through their day. But they don't.
How
And then
how
they
much of
work
this
with us
is
and adopt a cat. So
you should just give out free cats with every
I
subscriber
wish.
once you hit 3 months. uh,
Exactly.
how much of the medical space? I mean, you kind of got into it, right, as an outsider, perhaps, since you said that your cousin was the one that's a practicing doctor. But how much of the problems with healthcare in the U.S. are based on incentives, misalignment of incentives between provider, insurer, and patient versus, I don't know, other things of like it's just tough or it's complex or it's just expensive. Like, do you have a gauge on like where the problems are? Because I think everyone can agree that it's not pleasant to interact with the U.S. healthcare system.
Well, I don't know any country that has like a healthcare system where everyone is happy. I think it's difficult because health isn't so intensely personal. And when you have a health issue, it's so vulnerable. And like it feels really difficult to have your agency taken away when your body is literally the thing that's having a problem. That it's hard to design a healthcare system that's going to make people happy. I think, you know, the US is really good at delivering a lot of healthcare to people that have the money to pay for it, right? Unfortunately, you know, just because we're in the best in the world at that doesn't mean that's the system we want to be in. So, if to go back to your question of like, how much of it is incentives versus how much of it is it's just tough, I think we've just had 150 years almost of just cultural detritus piling on top of each other, that it's given us a system that has broken incentives, that insurers are kind of the middleman deciding what healthcare is allowed versus not allowed. And it almost takes away power from so many people involved. I would say it's probably 90% of healthcare, like healthcare issues and frustrations are from like incentive misalignment. But I'm sure if you asked an insurance person, they would say, hey, we're doing the best we can. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
don't know.
just a cog in the system. I There is this trend. I don't know if it's all anecdotal, but I've worked with a few different startups that are in the space of kind of taking a very niche problem, specifically in or relating to Medicare medical services, and then kind of spin up an entire silo or business going direct to the consumer. And I feel like in the past maybe 5 years, 10 years, there's been a bigger push for that. Is this based on something that's changing with consumer demand or regulation, or VCs are more interested in the space? What's kind of driving this movement?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest drive is we had the internet and smartphones, and that's just like, I know this sounds like I'm speaking down, but I promise I'm not. Like the biggest change to everything since 2000 is like the smartphone, right? And then the fact that the smartphone is connected to everything, and you're just able to you're able to like fast track so much communication and scheduling through that. Amazon is such a great example of this. Do you know it? Like it is so ridiculous to me that I can find a part for my broken fridge on Amazon and get it shipped to me in like 2 days. Where like 20 years ago, your fridge broke, like, okay, get on the phone with a repair guy and hope you can schedule something, right? It's just like that magical efficiency was found because of the interconnectivity. I think it's very natural that we are seeing that shift from products to services, because once people started expecting it for their products, they wanted that same experience, that same convenience for their services. And once kind of what we really saw it kind of break through with was like very wide ranging issues that affect millions and millions and millions of people, and where it's almost a commodity. So you see this with like birth control and women's health, and then like hair loss in men's health. So these are like really wide things that should be relatively cheap. And it's still even difficult to go and admit to your doctor that, hey, this is a thing that I need because it's kind of a personal issue. So we kind of saw a breakthrough there. And now we're seeing, okay, once the business model was proven with goods, with initial medical services like birth control and hair loss, okay, now we see it's just a natural expansion into specialty care.
Were you intimidated starting a company specifically in the field of medical services, or again, I don't know exactly how you classify yourself, telehealth, et cetera, but was there kind of this, it's scary enough to start a company and maybe talk on about that journey, but starting one specifically in the medical space would scare the shit out of me, just to be honest. And I've started a ton of companies.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is I didn't know, right? The way I got started in this is I had a personal problem. I found a personal solution. Right. I started asking people on Reddit if they had the same problem and if they'd pay for a solution. And it eventually turned from, oh, we're going to find people on Reddit to a full-on business with employees, with a P&L and all that jazz. So
actually push on that Reddit part, like get into the founder story. I think that's so, it's always very helpful to hear the journey that people go on because there are so many different paths. But at the end of the day, it's you cared enough to do a thing, and then you started doing a thing, and then you kept doing another action, and eventually it turns into a business. You went through Combinator, like just like, yeah, drill down on that for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is, right? So my cousin, who is now my co-founder, well, he's still my cousin, both of those things, right? He fixed me, and then I was like, this is really good. It kind of felt like, why doesn't this exist, right? Or like, why aren't more people doing this? And I went to the place that I thought people shout about their health issues when they are completely out of options. And there's two places. It's Facebook groups and Reddit. That's basically what it is. We literally started by just having my co-founder just answer questions on Reddit, right? So
like you found a specific subreddit or multiple subreddit, like
it was just there's r/allergy. Like, I mean, we just Googled around and there was r/allergy or r/allergies. And then we found a few questions, and my co-founder, initially I tried to have my co-founder write answers. That wasn't natural for him. So I was just like, hey, record yourself on video, spend just 1 minute answering this guy's question. I'll upload it to YouTube and then I'll do the responding. And so that's what we started doing. And then people would be like, we'd get some responses like, hey, can I work with you? Okay. So now that's a little like people are pushing, like you're getting a little market demand. We saw that our videos themselves started kind of, we were uploading them to YouTube just to upload them to YouTube, but then they started getting some traction on YouTube as a platform. So then we eventually started saying, okay, well, if you're in Colorado, we can see you as a patient. If you're outside of Colorado, we'll figure that out later, because that's where my co-founder had his license.
As a business this entire time of, oh, let's see if there's demand. Maybe you're working a day job at the same time, but let me see if I can turn this into a business and get enough revenue and then start seeing pay. Like, was this all planned out, or was it like, let's see where this goes, and then it just happened to turn into the company and Wyndly over time?
Yeah, I think we knew that like if we were going to put time into it, it was going to have to yield some revenue and profit, right? Because, I mean, when you're a doctor and your alternative is doing surgeries, or when you're a software engineer like myself and your alternative is consulting, like $10, $15 on the side isn't going to move the needle. Like, you literally just work an hour of overtime and do a lot more. So we knew that like there was something interesting here, and it was interesting as a project, and we were trying to measure like how big could it be, right? Even if it only turned into, hey, we have an allergy practice that answers questions online, and you can come to us in Colorado if you're in Colorado. Like, that was kind of the initial goal, right? Let's just see if we can get 10, 15 people coming into the practice in Colorado, and then we're helping people in a different way that they couldn't get help before. What really ended up happening is we were getting so much interest from all across the states that it became kind of a requirement that like there is something here, right? When you just kind of start seeing people are asking you, that's literally what market demand is, right? People are asking you for something, and you're like, I don't have anything to give you at all. So that's kind of when we applied to Y Combinator. That's when they gave us that initial funding, and Y Combinator really allowed us to say, okay, I can go full time on this. My co-founder can go full time on this, now that we're full time, we actually can dedicate so much more time to this. And let's find the doctors that we need to partner with so that we can treat people across the nation. Let's find the lawyers we need to partner with so that we can actually set this up so that you can treat people across the nation. Because these are questions that just aren't very natural to ask when it comes to, when you're a solo person just running a business and just trying things out, right? Once we started dreaming bigger, our problems became bigger, I guess is what I'm saying.
Aside from Y Combinator's stamp of approval, help in raising a higher valuation after YC, and then also the initial capital that they give you, what value did you gain from going through the program?
Yeah, I think one thing that I start to suggest to every founder who asks me for advice is like, it's all a matter of how fast you're able to move. Because when you're iterating every day, when you have small feedback cycles and you're going through them very quickly, it actually doesn't matter if you're going the wrong direction, right? It only matters if you're going the wrong direction if it takes you a month to course correct, 2 months to course correct. But if you start going the wrong direction and, 2 days later, you're like, oh, wait, I'm going the wrong direction, it's really easy to turn around. It doesn't cost you much, right? And I might have gotten lost in my like traffic metaphor there. I don't know. So I think what Y Combinator, yes, they give you some initial funding. Yes, they give you the best platform in the world for fundraising after the program. But really what they give you is they surround you with like 100 other people who are doing the same crazy thing as you, which is quitting relatively steady jobs to take the biggest risk of your professional career. And like they kind of normalize it. And then they normalize like moving really fast, because it's really embarrassing. Because it's an in-person program, you're sitting down with them every week, you're seeing these people, and it's really embarrassing to see someone where you both started at the same point and then like they now have 200 customers when you have 20, right? That's like, at least for me and for many people, it makes them competitive instead of feeling like, oh, I could never do that. So I think that's really valuable. And then I think the other thing is the alumni community is generally like very willing to talk to you and just like be helpful, because it's like being the alumni of any university or any other club, right? It's like, cool, you're here, we've kind of been through the same thing. You're like, we know you're an interesting person that's going to have an interesting question. That's basically it.
The competition part, I think, is a very interesting one I haven't heard before. But literally being surrounded by other high achieving people that we all, quote unquote, started at the same time, and we're all, quote unquote, trying to have the same objective of growth and scale and all this kind of stuff. That's a very compelling motivator for, I think, a lot of people. Do you think that is something you've been able to sustain post YC when you're not in that environment? And if not, what's motivating you now?
I think it's a motivator, but it's also kind of like, I think most people are like, they'll match the pace of what's around them, if that makes sense. Right. And so there's probably like 20% of people who are like able to set a fast pace, and 20% of people are always going to be slow. And then the other 60% are just going to match the average that's around them. Does that follow?
Yes.
So
yeah, we're kind of a product of our environment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that actually applies in a lot of places. Like, I don't think investment banking associates would do like 80 hours a week if like only one person was doing 80 hours a week. Actually 80 hours isn't, like 120 hours a week, right? I don't think like people in medical school would be able to push through if it was isolating and only one person was going through it at a time. So you're able to move fast. It's easier to move fast when you're surrounded by people who are also moving fast. So yes, it is definitely easier when you're a team of 2 or a team of 3 surrounded by founding teams of 2 or 3. Once you kind of make the company bigger, once you go fully remote like we are, it is harder to maintain that pace. I do it here because, like, look, the team's about 10 people now, and we maintain our pace by just, setting aggressive goals and pushing against them and really prioritizing moving forward over like getting stuck in decision making. Would we be faster if we were all next to each other? I don't know. But I think you just have to make it an ingrained part of your culture of like moving fast. As for like what's motivating you, I think the same thing that motivates a lot of startup founders to move fast. If you don't grow, your company's going to die.
That's always a good motivator, the good old fashioned death to get you up every day and keep going.
Well, I think it's interesting. You'll see some companies that have, I actually think that if you have more than 24 months of runway, you're not being aggressive enough. Because like runway is this idea of how much cash do you have left before your company runs out of money. And, I'll see people, oh, we have 36, we have like 48 months of runway. I was like, that's 4 years. You're not going to do anything, right? Because like you're not feeling that pressure. And I think like if you think of each iteration as like learning, your learning actually compounds, right? Because you're getting 1% better every single day. It's not linear. So since it's not linear, you actually do want to take some of your runway from the back portion and start using it up today so that you just move faster. It's like you're moving faster on a day-to-day basis, but you're also accelerating as you're moving faster. Sorry, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well.
Yeah, you're kind of reinvesting in yourself to accelerate the growth, accelerating acceleration almost to keep
exactly
compounding this. Yeah.
All right, not a physics major over here, so
neither of us are. Where does culture fit into this? You said you're at 10 people right now. You mentioned kind of having that culture of moving fast. And I think it's also easier when you're smaller to kind of have a very tight and close culture, but that's also what drives a company forward. So how do you see culture as being a role or a force within your company, and what are your plans to cultivate and maintain that as you grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think culture happens whether or not you want it to, right? Like it's like it's just going to happen. You don't have to be necessarily intentional about it, and it happens outside of corporate environments too. If you get like a team of 10 people to play pickup basketball, that group of people has a way that they approach the game, has a way that they approach disagreements, has a way that they literally play the game, and that's culture, right? And so, a group of 10 people, like one group of 10 people could get angry all the time and play really rough, which is fine if that's what they want to do. And another group might be like, any contact is a foul, because we're like 85 years old. I don't know. I don't know where this metaphor is going. Anyway, so it's going to happen automatically. So I think your job as a founder is to be intentional about it to avoid any negative aspects. So this goes back to what I was saying about pace setting, right? You want to find the people who will be able to move fast and will help you move fast instead of finding people who are going to slow you down over time. So that's a big one. The other one is like you want to find the behaviors that you want to nurture and have like continue existing, right? So for us, we want to make sure that there's as few meetings as possible. So we make sure when we're hiring that you're able to communicate effectively asynchronously. You can use
a video. How do you test for that?
Yeah, we literally like do an asynchronous video interview, right? It's just a list of questions, and then you have to answer them either through text or through a video recording.
And then how do you grade success or not success?
If you don't know how to, if you're not comfortable doing it, or if you're not able to speak well, then, maybe it's not for you. And that's okay, because that's just like, it's not about me having a spot for everyone in my company. It's a spot for, can I find the right person out there who would fit into my company? Right. We don't have a hiring, like Amazon has a different hiring problem than we do. Right. Amazon is just like, we're running out of people to hire. And I'm trying to just find the one person that'll help us move that much faster. Because if you think about it, when I hire my 11th person, that's going to be a 10% increase in the size of my company. And that person is now going to interact with everyone in my company. If they have to do everything in a synchronous meeting, then they're going to like force that on everyone else in my company. And it's going to be really difficult, and it's going to be a change. And I actually don't want that change. So I think that's how you have to shape culture. It's a function of like what behaviors do you feel drive productivity and drive results? And then how do you kind of encourage those and discourage behaviors that take away?
Yeah, I've
It's
definitely
a good
experienced
question.
this too, where when you are making your first hire or hires, it has such an outsized impact on who you are as a company, culture, communication style, mission, all of it, right? It's going to kind of bleed in. And yes, a founder sets the vision or the founder set the vision and the direction, but you can't be minding everyone. And you also don't want to be, right? You want to hire people that align with it and push it further and beyond what you can do on your own. That's the whole goal. And so I think it's one of those kind of catch 22s where you're trying to go as fast as possible. So if you find someone that can do the job, right, say they can do the work well, your instinct is like, oh, well, they're competent. Let me grab them. Let me bring them in. But equally, you're contrasted with, well, what about these other qualities that are values that we hold, we want to, cultivate, we want to build into our culture. And so you might find someone that's really, maybe you find a ton of people that are really competent and can do the work, but you still want to niche down and really select someone that is going to be 25% or 20% or 16% of your culture. You want to be very
Yeah.
intentional about who you bring in.
No, it's a huge part of it. And I think like that probably doesn't matter as much once you're a huge company, and like culture has a different meaning when you're on a team of 300 versus when you're on a team of 3. Um, but I hope to come back onto this interview in a few years and talk about that then.
We've talked about kind of people, right? Bringing in people to your organization, building up the culture. There's this thing, I don't know if you've heard about it, called AI, and there are a lot of thoughts around it. So I know you and I were talking a little bit off camera before we started recording about the idea of AI enhancing work, but not necessarily replacing work or human labor. Talk to me more about how you think about AI within a workforce, but then also how you're applying it within your own company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a company's job is to like build a ton of systems that will then generate revenue, right? Like at the end of the day, um, it should almost be like Google search might be an example, right? Like it is almost completely automated. I don't know how to talk to someone at Google if I wanted to. It makes Google a crazy amount of revenue.
It's a system without humans, right? You can have systems with
Yeah.
humans, but systems without humans are more predictable, more scalable.
Yeah. So then if you kind of apply that idea, it's almost like how do you choose to scale your company, and when do you stop relying on building systems and you start relying on like human decision making all the time? Like and sometimes I shouldn't even say human decision making. I should just say like decision making in general. So, this is sometimes what you'll see is customer support. This happens a lot, especially on small teams. As you start growing, as you start getting a lot of customers, people start emailing you, hey, what about X? What about Y? What about Z? And as a founder, you're like, I can't do this anymore. I need to, I need to hire someone to help me. And so you hire someone and they have to become an expert in everything. Okay. And then you're still growing a lot. Okay. You hire another person. And now the third person has to become an expert in everything. And you're scaling, but you're scaling through people instead of scaling. And you're not just scaling through any person, you're scaling through good people who can understand everything. So if you're in a complicated space like healthcare or finance, it might be difficult to hire someone who is an expert at everything. So what a lot of places do is then they start using technology to like make uh, technology to like delineate when do you need to make a decision, when should it go to like someone who knows a ton about finance or healthcare versus someone who's just like, oh, this is a normal question that anyone could handle. And then now they're still scaling through people, but they've added a little bit of automation on top. So that's like a traditional way that customer support teams scale. I think what we're going to start seeing is people starting to use LLMs or chat GPT style AI to basically replace any time someone has to read a lot of text, kind of triage a lot of information, and then kind of repeat the same thing over and over. So whenever there has to be a lot of button presses or keyboard clicks, that is where I see AI really taking a role in automation and system building. right? So for example, it used to take my team a ton of time to receive emails and really identify, is this a medical question? Is this a question about just where's my shipment? Or is this a question on someone trying to be like, hey, we want to offer Wyndly to our patients? So like a sales question, right? And it used to be a lot of time because there's so much nuance. Well, our customer support platform, which is HIPAA compliant, was like, actually, we're going to be able to do this for you. And so they released some AI feature which auto triages and kind of automatically says, okay, these are our sales questions, these are our support questions, and these are our medical questions. And that already is saving us time. And what's really interesting is the same way that if you had hired someone for this role, you could train them up and train them over time to improve. You can actually do that with AI also, right? You can say, hey, this is new data that we're providing you. Change how you behave based on this new data. So I think
For anyone who's potentially having that, what tool are you using if you're able to share for the customer support?
I mean, our customer support tool is called Customer. It starts with a K, but I think all of them are starting. Like, I think we're about a year and a half from like everyone basically offering like AI enablement like that. But I think what's going to be really interesting is who is able to move their processes, which are developed for humans, into processes which are developed for AI. Because humans are able to understand nuance in a way that an AI currently isn't. So it does require you to adjust your processes. I think that's going to be a really interesting, an interesting development.
One problem that I've heard a lot of people talk about in a corporate setting relating to AI is when you assign something for a human to do, you kind of know the risk factor, right? If this person goes rogue or they mess up, it's kind of a known thing of, oh, this employee, I could fire this employee, I could talk to this employee, but like it's kind of a known thing. We know how to trust them, we know who to trust, we know what repercussions are, etc. And if they do something that's felonious, right, they could literally go to jail, right?
Yeah.
So then when we have technology, right, traditional technology is very deterministic. So you write the code to do a thing, it does the thing correctly. Hopefully you didn't miss some weird edge case or bug that can be exploited and then something bad happens. But even if it does happen, that's on us because we just didn't think or catch that particular nuance, right? Yeah. We left a loophole. Now, when you start introducing AI into systems and processes, it's not quite A and it's not quite B. And so that's concerning. If an AI, if a generative AI or an LLM makes a air quote decision and it's the wrong decision or communicates the wrong thing, what do? You can't fire it, right? And you can debug and try to make it better, but is this like a concern at all for you as you think about scaling Wyndly up, or do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've identified that the tool has issues, and so how do you want to adjust what you build around the tool, right? So I think it's interesting you say like, oh, well, if they're human, you didn't say they don't make mistakes. You say there's like things you can do to address the mistake. So you can now decide like how much does a mistake cost us and how much do we care about it? So for example, let's say you have basically just a sorting system, right? Someone coming in, reviewing, I don't know, like 10,000 insurance receipts and saying, okay, this is for X, this is for B, this is for C. The human will probably have a large cost associated relative to AI, right? $8 an hour here in the States versus AI might be like nothing. The human will not feel fulfilled by that work. And so it's always going to be difficult to get good work out of them because like I don't want to do it. That's why I hired someone, and they don't want to do it because it's not a good job. Like it's not a fun job, right? So their mistake rate will go pretty high because it's repetitive work. Not pretty high, but it'll be there. And so like there's all of these things in that space. Well, then you're saying, okay, maybe a mistake costs me, if someone can do like, let's say you can do like one insurance claim a minute, a mistake cost me, however much their time was worth plus the time of addressing that mistake. Well, if AI can do twice as much as that and their mistake rate is a little lower, then maybe it is worth reviewing. And then I hire someone whose job it is now to tend to the AI and tweak it And yes, they need to be a subject matter expert, but they're not doing the tedious work. Instead, they're working on the process, right? They're building something new, and they're building work that is going to compound over time, because the process should compound over time. I actually think we're going to see something with AI very similar to what we saw with robots in factories, where the factory line jobs are going to go away, or they're going to significantly reduce. But like the robot maintenance jobs, which pay a lot more, which require education, which are a lot more creative even and more fulfilling, those will kind of pop up to take its place. Um, so I think like that's probably what it's going to look like.
It's one of
Or it's just like we're going to be absorbed into like the AI hive mind and Skynet or something. Those are the two outcomes.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not equally probabilistic.
Yeah, it could be one after the other. So we never know.
Yeah. One thing that I think humans always have in relation to technology is there's this kind of horizon effect where you can see up to the horizon. So you can see all the things that will probably or maybe go away from a job perspective, from loss in cultural norms, societal norms, etc. But you can't see what comes out of it, right? It's much more difficult to predict the net new things that pop up versus seeing the things that already exist that disappear. And so it kind of gives you this bias of like, that's scary because change is scary and I can't predict the outcome that it's going to be. And I just see death and destruction and I don't see new life and creation. But I agree with you. I think the robot analogy in factories is a good one. Of it transitions. Yes, maybe fewer people are needed for X, but then there's this new creation of work or labor force that ideally is more fulfilling. And again, it's never perfect, but hopefully that's the outcome we have.
Yeah, and I do think it's going to be tough, right? Now everything we do is net new, right? So like we're not replacing people with AI, but I'm sure it's happening in other companies and other parts of the place. Other places, in companies and in other places, and that's definitely going to be difficult. But I don't know. Maybe I'm an optimist, and I think it'll be fine on the flip side. I know Amazon is hiring a ton of people for their data warehouses because it does take a lot of work to run these AI models.
I believe it. To close this out, maybe talk a little bit about Wyndly's future. Where do you want to go? Where do you personally want to be? And where do you want the company to get to?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I started this company because I think allergies shouldn't exist. It's really dumb to me that you can make it so you can go 30 years without allergies and people take antihistamines. It's like, I think the same way that so many people get their teeth straightened, right? When they're young, even when they're adults nowadays, you can make it so like this is just a completely solved issue. So my goal is over the next 10 years to make it just completely normalized so that no one ever has allergies. Everyone is able to breathe. All of the like downstream health effects of not being able to breathe, like higher blood pressure, weight gain, all that stuff are all addressed. And, people feel good. And I know this change is going to happen. I'm just hoping that I believe very strongly that I'm going to be the one at the forefront of it. But I'm okay with being early if I'm able to set the foundation for just such a positive impact on so many people's lives. Personally, if people want to find me, they can just find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm going to be most able to respond. Pretty open message button that you can just hit. And, talk to me about whatever. If you want to start a company, talk to me about that. If you have allergy problems, talk to me about that. If you want a recommendation on what TV show to watch, I think Andor is really good. And,
yes, you're in that camp. I feel like it's so divisive. There's 50-50, hate it, love it. I love it. I think it's a great kind of political slow pace building to this tremendous crescendo drama. And I have friends who are like, that was the most boring show I've ever watched. I tried to start it 3 times and I can't finish it. So I'm glad you're in my camp.
Yeah, I don't know if I think it would have gotten more accolades if it wasn't Star Wars. That's actually what I believe. But yeah, I don't know. So
perfect.
Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
That answers your question. Absolutely. My question, your question, all the questions. Aakash, I really love that you are solving a thing that you think is really dumb. I know that sounds overly simplistic and maybe a little bit silly, but that's what we should solve. If there's a painful thing that exists and it sucks and it's stupid, it hasn't been. I mean, it's literally already been solved and people just aren't aware of it, and it's just building a system. I love that vision. I love that mission, and hope you guys succeed.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Take care.